Welcome to another Lightning Tech Talk with, I'm delighted to welcome James Fellows, uh, former CIO of Coventry Building Society. Welcome, James.
Richard.
Nice to see you again. I've known James for a very long time, so it's great for you to share a bit of time with us. So, James, I've got some questions for you. Tell us about your biggest technology challenge that you face in the last 12 months or so.
Biggest in the last 12 months, probably we in November we upgraded the hardware, the operating system, the database version, Oracle Forms for the core banking database at CBS, and that was definitely a technology challenge. There's a lot of work went into it, from SMEs and program lead and so on as well. The sponsor. I was interfacing into the business, so there was a lot of work on the operational resilience and the business side as well. But I'd definitely put that right up there at the top in the last 12 months, certainly.
Fantastic. What about the key technology trends going forward in the next couple of years? What would you say IT leaders should be focused on and coming up with strategies to address?
I think that's dead interesting. You see Gartner have got their hype cycle stuff. I think they released their latest one a couple of months ago, didn't they? In reality, on the ground, I think we're going to carry on seeing a lot of growth in cloud. I think there's going to be more and more app development, and therefore the microservices that back those off into probably native cloud services. Massive problem that we've always had in technology, though, quality line management. That's dead tough. Because a lot of us are really into the technology, not great at the people management motivation, and we all know if you're not got a great manager, work's a bit a bit of a drag. So that's where I think we need to put a lot more effort.
Completely agree. And sort of linked to that, what do you think then the key skills that are going to be required to help to address those or to deliver on some of those strategies?
So I think a lot of cloud native, and so whether or not you choose to specialize in AWS or Azure or GCP, a lot on that side. I think the ability to work closely with the business is dead important. We moved to a product-based operating model where we got small agile teams working direct with business SMEs who really understand and know what the customers want, and how we remain profitable. So those, it's not enough any longer to be great at the tech. You've got to be great at talking to the business as well.
Absolutely agree. And do you think there's a lot of different technology, I guess, strategies banded about cloud, cyber, data, all these different sort of initiatives which are obviously important, but ultimately these things are about business problems, right? So if you sort of look at during your tenure at CBS, the sort of almost like the biggest business problem you were trying to tackle, what would you say that was and why?
Digitizing engagement with customers. And I think that's almost universal across businesses now. You must talk to a lot more businesses than I do, right? But the reality is now, I think more and more organizations are realizing that their business is technology. We talked about CBS. It's 130-year-old building society. Ultimately, it's a tech business that holds customers' money, and that's a fundamentally different way to approach it. But it drives very different behaviors, and very different needs from us as technology. The critical thing, I think it's dead easy to stuff in a chat tool, notifications to people's mobile phones, more emails. That's not customer engagement. The public customers, we are getting better and better now, more and more selective in what good looks like, and so as businesses we've got to get a whole world sharper at what is our business there to do, what's our differentiator, and how are we going to replicate that through technology, so that we can remain competitive, always on, but without being dead expensive.
Yeah. And do you think there's any particular technology that's helped you more than anything else to try and drive that digital agenda?
Yeah, I mentioned cloud earlier. I think cloud's phenomenal. I've been in financial services most of my life, and even the regulators recognized a few years ago. Billions of pounds worth of investment is going in from Amazon or Microsoft or Google, or loads of them now, to really build up the services that they offer to clients through their cloud platforms. And we as customers can go in, users of that technology can go in and enable them, if we've got the skills, compose them together, take advantage of billions of pounds a year of R&D, of tech spend and so on for an hourly fee. And that's phenomenal, right? There are the things that you can buy off the shelf. You mentioned cyber. You can get F5, you can get all sorts of WAFs, you can get all sorts, just at the click of a button in AWS or Azure, stuff that would cost you hundreds of thousands of pounds to implement or just to buy, let alone then implement and configure in your own data centers. I think we're now, as technologists, unless you're working for one of those real tech wholesalers almost, we're there to compose services for our consumers, almost the middleman to build the great stuff out of the technology Lego.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, some of the people I speak to are sort of trying to wrestle with building AI user cases. Have you identified any, or that you think have got legs? Or
yeah, I mean, look, the reality is almost anything, right? I don't know if you had to play with ChatGPT, which is just the latest. I said I worked in financial services all my life. It's mostly been technology, but I ran financial crime and credit underwriting for one of the banks in the UK good few years ago. We were using heuristics and AI, machine learning to look for fraud in transaction patterns, billions of transactions. So it's not new. But yeah, the technology is coming on in leaps and bounds. I saw an example the other day of some code being created, assembled out of various different open source libraries that ran on. It was on a microprocessor actually. That's phenomenal, right? So suddenly now, okay, the technology is there, like AWS. The tools are there. AI is one of those tools. The question is, what does your business need, and what are your competitive differentiators that your customers come to you for, that you can really help to drive at a lower cost, faster, more accessible or more accessibly using AI. That's where the opportunity lies. But it can do almost anything for you already.
That's fantastic. And I've got to ask you this question around sustainability. Right? Again, this is something I'm hearing a lot of people thinking about. CBS, from what I understand, is that it's certainly a key topic for them to support. So how is technology sort of supporting sustainability in your area?
So yeah, it's a great question. I mean, ultimately, from a tech perspective, we're either coming down to the raw materials that we consume in order to provision hardware or whatever it might be, the energy that we use in order to power that technology, or then ultimately our impact on society, ESG and the like. Each of those things, if you buy my point about the tech wholesale is being done largely for us by people like Amazon now. It comes down to us to be smart about how we consume that. Do it in a way that is, take advantage of peaks and troughs in our consumption in the US. When that gets in the UK, when that gets smoothed globally, actually we're all sharing the same underlying hardware. We can be a whole world more efficient, and reduce power where we can. Generate it. We had we covered the building roofs in Coventry with solar panels. So all of that sort of stuff, it's phenomenally important. I'm a dad, right? We've only got one planet, and you've got to look out for these things as you're looking ahead to what we leave behind as our legacy.
Absolutely. And what about your greatest challenge and perhaps greatest success around sort of ED&I, which again is obviously been a hot topic the last few years? What can you share in that area?
So just before I became CIO, I joined Coventry Building Society originally to lead the infrastructure transformation. But I joined as deputy CIO just before becoming CIO. I got called out on a town hall. I was talking to the whole of the technology department, and I used the term guys, the collective. You know what, guys? And someone stood up and said that's not okay. That's a male term. And what you're doing by using that term is you're reinforcing this idea that in technology, it's generally men. I hadn't given it any thought whatsoever. And I can tell you it was so hard to stop using that term. And every time I made a slip, I'd stop myself and acknowledge and recognize it, because more diversity is valuable. But there are very few women in technology compared to men. They just don't adopt it as a career, which is really limiting. It's a massive missed opportunity, I think. I've had some phenomenal men working for me, phenomenal women working for me as well, and that so as personally, getting called out in front of 450 people, and putting my hands up and reflecting on it, acknowledging it. But it became a little bit of almost a mission. Then people were calling each other out for it in other meetings, and it really reinforced the reality that technology isn't a male-dominated world. Why would it be?
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, I've got to ask you your personal favorite technology invention of all time. What is that?
Personal favorite technology invention of all time.
Yeah,
I think for me, it's probably Linux operating system.
Okay.
I think I think that changed the world. The fact that there were people, open source generally, that were prepared to flex their intellectual might to contribute to something and build something for the good of other people, for the good of a community. That's an incredible thing. And if you, as a technologist, if you don't contribute to open source, then shame on you. It powers and drives so much of our lives, that we get a lot of benefit. You need to give back as well.
Yeah, fantastic. What would you put in tech room 101?
Oh, you're going to hate me, Richard. LinkedIn. So as I've worked my way up through my career, I've enjoyed using LinkedIn as a social media platform to keep in touch with people. You and I worked together 20 years ago, right? And keep in touch through LinkedIn. The more senior you get, the more it becomes a channel where you just get hammered by salespeople. So if I'm honest, I get half a dozen requests a day for connections from people trying to sell me stuff. So what I look out for is connections from people that I really know, or colleagues, people I don't know that are in similar roles to me, different industries. Maybe I love that. That's all good. But yeah, maybe salespeople on LinkedIn. That's probably the answer.
It's not just LinkedIn, of course. Like I'm the same. I get many approaches on LinkedIn, but also my email box is hammered.
Yeah, you're dead right.
So that's fantastic. So just to finish off, really, a bit of fun. A few lightning questions for you. So, favorite book?
Probably one of two. Either Day of the Jackal, Frederick Forsyth. Really enjoyed that. And Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens, actually. Phenomenal story. Really, really interesting.
Android or iOS?
Oh, Android. Open source, right? Open source.
Star Trek or Star Wars?
Star Wars, much more exciting.
I agree. Which radio station do you listen to?
Radio 4 is the only radio station I listen to. I don't even watch TV. I get everything from Radio 4.
Yeah, okay. I'm all 5 Live, but anyway. Mindful Place?
I've just got back from hiking and cycling in the mountains in Mallorca, and I was up there in the snow on my own in the woods. It was phenomenal, and so peaceful. Hard work, but loved it.
Fantastic. What about social media? So Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter? What's your tipple?
I'd say Instagram.
Yeah, me also. Coffee or tea?
Coffee.
Yeah. Mac or PC?
PC running Linux.
Book or ebook?
Oh, interesting. Ebook. Just more convenient, right?
Yeah.
Just more convenient.
Yeah, it is now. And favorite sports team club if you have one?
I don't, and that's probably why you listen to Radio 5 and I don't.
Yes, correct. James, that's fantastic. Thanks so much for sharing some of your experiences, and it's been great to see you again. I'm sure for those, if anyone's interested in connecting with James, he will be on LinkedIn, but preference goes to people clearly non-sales people. But I'm sure he'll be welcome any introductions and connections that can.
Dead right. By all
add
means,
value.
connect. Absolutely.
So, James, great to see you again. Thanks so much.
Cheers, Richard. Good to see you, mate.